Palestine statehood. Why the world is divided. Nigeria, Africa and global debate. The world is on fire with a new question. Should Palestine be officially recognized as a state? From the streets of Gaza to the hills of the United Nations, the battle over Palestine is not just about land. It is about history, power, justice and the future of the global politics. This week, some of the world's most powerful nations, France, Spain, Ireland, Norway, and even the United Kingdom, joined more than 140 countries that already recognize Palestine as a state. But others, the United States, Canada, Germany, Italy, and of course Israel itself, still say no. And countries like Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana, they remain on the fence, silent or neutral. So today on Chinick TV, we dig deep. What does the Palestine statehood really mean? Why is the world so divided? And how does this fight connect to Africa, to Nigeria, to West, to Russia, to China, to religion, to history, and even to the Bible itself? Stay with us. Let's see the global numbers. Let's start with the raw facts. According to the United Nations, more than 140 countries, that's nearly 3/4 of the world, already recognize Palestine as a state. Asia, China, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, and almost the entire Middle East, Africa, South Africa, Egypt, Algeria, Senegal, Namibia, and many more. Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Venezuela, Cuba, Europe, France, Spain, Ireland, Norway, and yes, even the UK have formally recognized Palestine. But standing against this wave are some of the most powerful players. The United States, Israel's closest ally. Canada, which says it supports a two-state solution but refuses to recognize Palestine. Germany, Italy, Israel, and a handful of European allies. And then there are the fence-sitters, nations that avoid a firm stand. Nigeria is one of them. So is Kenya. So is Ghana. So, the truth is simple. The global south says yes. The west is divided. And Africa itself is pricked. Why is this recognition important? Because recognition gives Palestine political legitimacy. It strengthens their position in international law. It allows Palestine to join more global institutions, sign treaties, and demand justice for Gaza and the West Bank. But for Israel and its allies, recognition is seen as a threat, a way of isolating Israel, of weakening its claim to Jerusalem, and of empowering Hamas and other Palestinian groups. For Africa, it is even deeper. Palestine's struggle reminds many Africans of the anti-apartheid fight in South Africa. In fact, Nelson Mandela himself said, "Our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians." So, when South Africa recognizes Palestine, it is not just politics, it is solidarity. But let's talk about Nigeria. Nigeria has one of the largest Muslim populations in Africa and one of the largest Christian populations in the world. That makes Palestine Israel not just foreign policy, but a religious and emotional issue at home. The north of Nigeria often leans towards Palestine, seeing the conflict as an issue of justice for Muslims. The south, especially the Christian community, often leans towards Israel, seeing it through the Bible and prophecy. This divide explains why Nigerian leaders walk a tightrope. They don't want to anger Israel and the United States, but they also don't want to ignore Muslim majority allies like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and even Iran. So Nigeria stays silent, neutral, on the fence, but for how long? Because as Africa becomes more vocal on the global stage, the pressure on Nigeria, the so-called giant of Africa, will only increase. Let's see Africa's voice. Across Africa, the debate is heating up. South Africa is one of Palestine's loudest defenders. It even took Israel to the International Court of Justice, accusing it of genocide in Gaza. Other African nations, like Algeria and Senegal, also speak strongly for Palestine. But then there are those who play it safe. Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, balancing between Western aid and African solidarity. And let's not forget countries like Uganda and Rwanda, which lean heavily on Israel for military and technological support. For them, Palestine's recognition is complicated. This shows Africa's big challenge: unity. If Africa cannot speak with one voice on Palestine, can it truly even speak with one voice on global justice? Let's see the Western divide. Now to the West. The United States is firm. No recognition of Palestine until Israel agrees. Washington supplies Israel with billions in military aid every year. But Europe is pricked. On one side, Germany, Italy, and others stand with Israel. On the other, France, Spain, Ireland, Norway, and the UK just recognize Palestine. Why? Because Gaza has changed everything. The images of destruction, the civilian deaths, the humanitarian crisis are too big to ignore. Public opinion in Europe is shifting, and politicians are now forced to follow. But let's be clear, the US still holds the biggest card. Without Washington's approval, Palestine's recognition will always face a powerful roadblock. Let's see the Eastern powers. Now, what about other superpowers? Russia, strongly pro-Palestine. Putin sees it as a way to challenge US dominance and win friends in the Muslim world. China, same. Beijing supports Palestine, partly to expand its influence in Middle East and Africa. For both Russia and China, Palestine is more than ideology. It's strategy. And this East-West division turns Palestine into a global chessboard. Now let us look at the roots of the conflict. But let's step back. What is the real cause of these fights? The roots go back to the Holocaust, when millions of Jews were killed in Europe. Out of that tragedy, Israel was created in 1948 on the land Palestinians also called home. For Jews, Israel was a safe return after centuries of persecution. For Palestinians, it was a Nakba, a catastrophe of displacement and loss. Since then, wars, occupation, settlements, and blockades have defined the story. It's not just religion, it's history, it's land, it's survival. Let's see the Bible dimension. And for millions of Christians, especially in Africa and the United States, Israel is more than politics, it's prophecy. The Bible speaks of Israel returning to its land. For many, modern Israel is a fulfillment of that prophecy. But the Bible also speaks of justice, mercy, and peace. That's why some Christians argue that supporting Palestine's rights is also biblical. So religion makes the debate even hotter, especially in Africa. Let's see the implications for the future. So where does this leave us? If more countries recognize Palestine, Israel risks isolation. If the US and its ally block recognition, Palestine remains stateless, angry and desperate. If Africa stays divided, it loses its chance to shape global justice. And for Nigeria, silence is no longer enough. The world is watching. Finally, so here we are. Palestine's recognition is not about borders. It is not about power. It is not about history. It is not about Africa's voice. It's about West divide. It is about East versus West. It is about the Bible. And it forces us to ask, should Palestine finally be recognized as a state? Should Nigeria and Africa take a stand? Or should the world continue to play politics with people's life? This is not just their fight. This is a test for global justice. And Chinick TV will keep asking the hard questions. So, I want to hear from you. Should Nigeria recognize Palestine? Should Africa unite? Or should we stay neutral? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's start a debate. This is Chinick TV. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe because the world is changing and we are here to tell the story.